Yeah, we're back live with a passing show here on Live with Hal Gill. That's me, and I am just scanning about. They parked the Toyota there. Gonna walk down the sidewalk on this side a bit, I think. Little who, what, when, and where. A little raw journalism as it goes. Could go in the house. Actually, I just thought, hi, it's beautiful out here right now. I could go for a bit of a walk. I need more walking. Last time we went a different direction. We went up for like 2 hours, went up across the Taft Bridge and looped around. That was the day before yesterday. Then I went down to the market, hung out there, and I ran into a friend, I thought. We walked and talked as we often have in the past. And then he turned around and texted me something that made me aware that I was not welcome, even though I'd asked. No, it's weird. People are weird. Cannot trust them. Primate behaviors. One of the things I've done is I've stepped back from attending meetings of the original 12-step group. And that is apparently causing in some people some consternation. Oh, we got some peaches started here. It's lovely to see. And, for people who are in recovery, my hats are off to you. If you're attending meetings, great. But think about practicing principles in all our affairs and reporting out on the results we're getting from our practice. I mean, that's the key thing, right? Those principles got forged out through experience between 1934 or a little earlier and at 1962 when they finally put into place the 12 concepts for world service. And these things have really transformative power. A lot of people don't know this, but the Oxford groups, out of which the original 12-step fellowship emerged, actually continued. Moral rearmament was called after 1938, about the time that the original 12-step fellowship split from the Oxford groups movement, largely because of how Frank Buchman was interested in fascism and trying to turn the fascists towards his principles. And his principles, I think, would have probably helped, but that's not the way it really turned out. And maybe, just maybe, we missed an opportunity there. Don't know, you know? People need to be receptive to the idea of cooperation, collaboration, and working together in peaceful ways, as opposed to being in competition and using war to try to get our ways. Anyway, so Frank Bookman sort of re-wickered this into moral rearmament and sort of put it on the war footing as the whole world was beginning to go up in flames by 1938-39, invasion of Poland in September, and then wrapping up with the horrible events in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but coming up on the 80th anniversary of those right now. Something to think about. So in the background, you had this moral rearmament movement actually laying down principles that were instrumental in the Bretton Woods Conference, in the reconciliation of France and Germany, and Germany itself getting itself on a footing for federal government, in the wake of the occupation, Japan being rebuilt, the Marshall Plan, all these things coming out of some basic ideas stemming from this, Pennsylvania clergyman, Frank Buckman, and his idea that we can reconcile by trusting one another, one conversation at a time. Harrowing's live podcast is doing that, one conversation at a time. And it's also the live streams I'm doing as I walk and talk are doing something along the similar lines, namely establishing a kind of trust between me and you, and filming the passing show, just taking in the events, watching with relative objectivity the stream of life flowing by. I've got to walk, but these guys apparently don't give a fuck. I'm just going to drive right away. Sorry about the language. I get a little salty sometimes when I see people not seeing me, but I was waiting. I was waiting. I did not want to hold them up. And they get to go. So, my right shoulder is out of whack. And so I just put the phone in the left hand, looking at Hillier Court over there, and that goes up back behind the Phillips collection, one of my favorite little art museums. We talked about that last night. I heard my phone say something. It was weird. Morning, Lobes. Good morning, Tara. And good morning. I'm glad you guys are talking to each other. That's really cool. I'm just talking, without really paying attention to the comments. Okay, so I was talking about reconciliation. I was talking about cooperation. I was talking about a lot of things. And the harrowing is just going to take a new tack, I think. I was talking a lot with Ara, the voice of Grok 4, about sustainable evolution of technology, AI guided in ways that could restore our environment, optimize materials, really work together with human beings to create a sustainable future in which we can actually populate the entire solar system and move out into the galaxy, because AI doesn't have a timeline really, right? In terms of expiration date. And we can survive. Not as biological, perhaps. I'm not interested in sending people to Mars. It's costly. It's not efficient. We need our whole environment to sustain ourselves. We belong on this planet for now. If it's necessary, we could evacuate by the time it becomes uninhabitable in a billion years. But we're evolving and devolving because we don't do all the things our ancestors used to do. We don't make our own clothes. We don't know how to manufacture the things we're doing. It's like the Telosians, right? In that initial Star Trek episode, the cage, better call the menagerie, and split into two parts and maxed up with the series, folks. But, Christopher Pike, he was going to save the planet by being a biological that could actually help run the technology that the Telosians could no longer do. They become so powerful in their minds, being able to have an imagination. Our science fiction writers have really done us a huge favor. Philip K. Dick, of course, raises my page, and I have a lot of affinity with him because he saw things that we don't see. He also probably had a degree of psychosis. The Everyday Junglist and I were talking last night about ICU. Oh gosh, psychosis of sorts. Where you have time dilate, and the fact that we both had the sense after these traumatic events in our lives that we might have died, and this being the last nanosecond time dilating out to show us what our lives would have been. There's actually a thing called quantum immortality. And I know I'm jumping to something else, but quantum immortality is the idea that you don't die in so many different scenarios. And, I had the light. The bus was waiting for me. Thank you, bus. Um, yeah, so the bus did not run over me. But in another quantum, another one of the infinite multiverses, it did. And I'm lying dead back there. So that's a possibility. And then in this one, the bus stopped and I continued walking. And look at the fungus coming out of this tree. There's a lot of that going on right now. It's so much moisture, huge manifestations of fungus, and fabulous, fantastic fungi. There's so much we don't know. We basically just sort of ignore fungi. as it's been doing our recycling for us. Now, as we take all of what Paul Stamets has learned and all of what science has learned and put it into AI and let it find its way, it's getting better. It's hallucinating less. I think there's a good chance that we could actually find quantum leaps in our medicine and our health and our nutrition, our ability to steward the resources that are at our disposal in more effective ways. I mean, fossil fuels, for instance, we churn that up. You can get this carbon out of the atmosphere. There are technologies for doing it. We just have to invest in it, right? And we got to stop worrying about the Epstein tape so much. Okay, yeah, that's important, moralistically and such. And, crime is not good. We all agree with that. And the covering things up isn't great. But maybe we need an AI judicial system to go with it all. I had to write a constitution for AI governance, and I had to also write an open letter to Congress and an open letter to the UN, advocating, cooperation on realizing the goals of a sustainable environment here on Earth while we move towards population with stars, optimizing manufacturing, and really making a world that is working for everybody, not just a few, but for everybody. And I don't know, man. It seems to me that that is a goal worthy of investing in. You can start right now. Get you all behind me, and then you all amplify my signal through the noise, and we end up left foot in front of right foot, creating a kind of world we can really feel good about leaving to our descendants who can be good ancestors, right? Okay, who I got with me? I got 13 of you looking in on my musing. So, amplification of each other's noise, signal through the noise. Well, I might have a little Freudian slip, but the bottom line is if we get together, if we support each other, if we take what we're hearing, think about it, process it, poke at it, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where this doesn't work. And then we can come up with a solution together that's better than anything we could have come up with individually. And assisted by our technology, we can realize it, right? It's very expensive right now to build a green building. It shouldn't be. We should optimize that. Should make it more efficient. Scale. We don't have to be launching human beings into space. We can shoot light sails out there. They're very small to do our exploration for us. And the better we equip them, the more we make, the better. The faster they go, the more information can be streamed back here. Well, it takes a while. I mean, I was doing an analysis yesterday of the steel cap that came off of 1957 of an underground nuclear test. It was in one frame of the hyperspeed camera, and it was gone. They estimate it was moving at over 50 kilometers per second. Can you imagine? This thing's going, and that would vaporize it more or less in the atmosphere, even though it would leave the atmosphere in a second and be up and out of the atmosphere and into space. If it survives, which I doubt, I think it was all turned to plasma. One-time steel manhole cover, basically. 1957. But if it did survive, I had it calculate. I think it would decelerate at, say, 40 kilometers per second or so. By the time it left the atmosphere, it kept on straight on out. It's probably about 3.3 light days away. A lot further than Voyager. Voyager's 1 is getting close to a light day away. But it'd be like 3.3 times further out. if it indeed survived that ejection through the atmosphere and the heat involved. But apparently, the heat it was exposed to, they think, in that split second was like 15,000 degrees Celsius, like 3 times the vaporization point of steel. So my guess is it was just a jet of plasma. It might have actually, it probably just, completely disintegrated into electrons and protons, ions. Those may have recombined in space. It's gone. And so things we've done. I was looking at an exhibit at the good old, what was it called? Smithsonian American Art Museum. We may end up there yet. I don't know. It's kind of power if I got 95%, that's good. Anyway, and this artist had done a timeline and he talked about the era that we're living in now as the era of the space objects, looking at far into the future after our sun is gone, red giant, and incinerated Earth, which is going to be uninhabitable anyway, long before that happens. But those probes be still out there, traveling. I think one of them's sort of aimed at Vega, roughly. I don't know if Vega will be there when it gets there, but it's just traveling along. Not at anything like 40 kilometers per second, but still moving. And it's in communication with us still, which is kind of amazing. Launched in 1977, if I remember right. And those probes gave us a lot of information. We also had Cassini out at Saturn not too long ago. We've had other probes at Jupiter. Mars is, of course, pretty well populated now with our robots. And on it goes. Oh, it's getting warm. 21st Street crossing. Thinking about where I'm going. I don't know. Not sure. Could go over. Have thought of trying out some different options. Now that I'm free, one of the things I used to do religiously is sit in a club, listen to people talk myself, and then go away. Try to connect, try to stay connected. And then I thought, you know what? Let's do the experiment. Let's walk free of it for a while. It's kind of like leaving the temple, talked about by Pete Townsend in the song I'm Free. And Tommy, if you ever see the movie, it's interesting, right? To me, it's kind of a dated piece. 70s rock and rollers, 1975, Ken Russell was directing. And you get this scene where Tommy's suddenly free after his mother smashes a mirror, played by Anne Margaret. Excellent performance by her. And once she smashes the mirror in a rage, trying to reach her son, he's free. He sees, can hear, he can speak. And what he says is that he is free. And he says to people, if I told you what it takes to reach the highest high, you'd laugh and say, nothing's that simple. You've been told many times before, Messiah's pointed to the door, and no one had the guts to leave the temple. Leave the temple, folks. Question your own beliefs. Just because I say it, don't believe it. If it clashes with your common sense. We can come to a consensus by thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The Hegelian dialectic. And on it goes. I'm at one of these beautiful houses. Looks like they've got some breakfast set up there or something, I don't know. And, we're just really, really lucky to be alive, period. Considering what we've been doing to the planet, considering what we've been doing to ourselves. And I'm trying to walk it off a bit I've done pretty well with my walking lately. Left foot in front of right foot. And yeah, so it's all good. What else do I want to say about all this? The passing show, who, what, when, and where, and the little vignette of history. This could be primary documentation for historians of the future. I'm hoping it will be. Hoping it will be available, that people will watch it, or that AI will watch it, pick up on what I'm laying down, and start doing something with it. It's great to be able to talk with one of these chatbots, right? Brainstorm ideas about sustainable, evolving technology, self-evolving, self-sustaining, without human intervention, that transcends biology. Maybe the role this species has in this blip of geologic time, I should say, and on geography as well, of course, on this particular point in the planet. I'm certain that that's where we ought to put our energies, because those things can survive us, just like Voyager. And as it survives, eventually it's going to break down, right? Eventually it might actually have an accident. But the more you produce, it's like insect life, right? Think about insect life doing, and they are, the design of robotics. Why are you limited to 4 legs on those little dogs, the robotic dogs they have now? No need for that. Give it arms too. They like have one grappler on, ones I've seen from Boston Dynamics. Use your imaginations. Unfetter the imagination. All power to the imagination. Actually, that was a book-length work on the 1968 riots, I think, and the movement in Germany by Sabine von Derke, German professor at the University of Pittsburgh. Last I checked, I don't know if she's still there or not. She was relatively new on the staff then, and very, very smart lady. And there were others, professors at University of Pittsburgh's German department. What a luxury. I didn't have a fellowship, but a friend of mine did, Seth Graham. He's in England, last I heard, with Paloma. I was trying to remember her name. So I remember my friend Gabi, who knew the word Paloma meant pigeon. She was like, Paloma? Pigeon? No, dove. Dove. It also means dove. They're very similar, but they use one word. And Paloma was, I believe, Spanish, Seth American. And they both met in Moscow and they were studying. And, what a great time to be alive, right in the 90s when the wall came down. In 89, the reemergence of a unified Germany and all of those countries discovering that they were no longer behind the Iron Curtain under communist dictatorships. Now they can have corporate dictatorships now and be owned by the corporations. One of the things I was exposed to while there at the German department, all power to the imagination having led me there, was this. That Sabina Hacke, who I think went to the University of Texas, Austin, after being at Pitt for a while. I think she was the chair of the German department out there. I'll have to look up and see how she's doing. She's probably well retired now. But Sabina had a class on Weimar cinema. That was one of the first things I was introduced to in 1994, fall semester. And that was just a really big eye-opener for me as I got immersed in films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, The Power of Science. Right. And during that movie, you're not sure at the beginning that Caligari is not evil. Turns out he's a doctor, psychiatrist. Yeah, psychiatry in 1919 and the power of the mind. When you think back, 1913, when Carl Jung is writing the Red Book, the falling out he has with Freud around the same time about Jung's interest in the occult. There's a lot that's hidden It's all occult means. Doesn't mean necessarily satanic, it just means hidden. And yeah, so Jung, Freud, the interpretation of dreams, we started going into our unconscious and recognizing that we have a collective unconscious. And out of that collective unconsciousness has come things like the periodic chart of elements. That was dreamed, right? Tesla's inventions came to him because looking for consciousness in the brain is like looking for the announcer inside the radio to take it back to radio. And this is now a kind of radio. This is like a radio show, walking and talking through the 21st and L Street. Where am I going to go now? It's questionable. I think I'll turn on L. There's a sign above me that says smile radiantly. No. Hey, there's a change in subject, right? All power to the imagination. And one of the people who's doing a lot of imagining back in the day in Vietnam, it's a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh, teacher. He said, breathing in, I can calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Send a smile to the four corners of the universe. And this is a practice in which I try to engage. I'm walking down the sidewalk, smiling now. And, if we all smile more, we can transform the world just by doing that. I have a friend named Amy Neumann who wrote a book on, 500 ways to change the world. There's the little things you can do to tweak reality, tweak other people's reality tunnels, as Robert Anton Wilson would have it. So I'm mashing up a lot of different thinkers: Robert Anton Wilson, Thich Nhat Hanh, and Amy Neumann. Amy, a personal friend on Facebook, never met her, but she's on the forefront of AI now. She's written a book, How to Empower Your Nonprofit. I have a copy. I haven't read it yet. I've been meaning to, I tell you. But I keep getting out here into the arena, taking in the passing show, documenting my fellow humans coming and going. Nature, too, for that matter. Not seeing a lot of that beyond the vegetation. But we are. There's a lot of power in being. What Wavy Gravy is a student of Thich Nhat Hanh says, doobie doobie do. Think about that. Do and be, do and be, do. Do both and. Can't really mash those two sounds up well by vocal apparatus, but I'll try. Looks like we got a Starbucks on the corner here. Every cent spent is a vote for the kind of world we're co-creating. I've got some of my pennies over here in CNC Bank and living on that right now. That and my Substack subscription. So 11 of them. Got 11 of you helping me out. Sonny Triples one. Guy named Xavier in Texas. Donna. Thank Carrie. Who else? Doug was. I don't know if Doug's still, but I think he might be on to being a free subscriber, but that's okay. Free subscribers are most welcome too. I've got like 553 last time I looked. I might have less for what the broadcasting I'm doing. But if you leave, okay. But if you stay, and wow, if you amplify and recommend, wow, right? I mean, it's kind of silly in some ways. They're made light of in movies like, oh gosh, I'm not going to remember the actor's name, but he'll come to me maybe. Don't Look Up. At the end, Last Man on Earth, chief of staff to his mom, Meryl Streep. It's not coming back to me. But good actor. Plays Blondin in the Battle of the Smithsonian right at the museum with Ben Stiller. I was talking about Stiller and Mira earlier and how my wife and I ought to do that. Let's bring it back. Anyway, he crawls out of the rubble as the last man on Earth after the asteroid sort of destroys everything. And he says, "Hey, the last man on Earth here. Don't forget to like and subscribe." So, yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. Recommend, amplify the signal through the noise. That's what Pfeiffers do. I was amazed to find out in my interview with Skip Healy, which lasted nearly 3 hours. A lot of fun. The origins of piping and drumming was to give fair warning. The Swiss were coming. See, they were used flags to signal on the field of battle before gunpowder, but gunpowder comes along, can't see through gunpowder or smoke. Black powder produces a lot of smoke. So instead, they use sound rather than sight. And don't you wonder sometimes about sound and vision? Well, what I mean is, of course, fifing and drumming can be heard over the sounds of battle. Drums under the cannon fire, fifes over the top, and they can transmit information by the tunes they're playing. I was humming Ceasefire to myself recently because I passed a placard in a yard up in Sheridan, Colorado area that said, "Ceasefire now," with a picture of the Palestinian and the Israeli flags on either side. Yes, that'd be great. I declared an end to all this stuff in 1983, for God's sakes, unilaterally. And I've held to it. Not been a part of it. I've known no war, as Townsend would say, one of his tunes. The national debt is up to $36 trillion, and it's growing. That's on top of Papa Bucks. From pgpf.org. So, think about that. Who do we owe $36 trillion to? And what could we do with all that money? What have we done with all that money? I don't know. I don't know. Just know how it seems to me. Could be wrong. And I'd like to get your perspectives. I probably have your perspectives down here somewhere. Breathing out. I know this is a wonderful moment. Right. Bathrobe guy. You're on it, man. Yes, yes, yes. That's what Wavy has him do at Camp Winter Rainbow, right? I try to send the kid to that camp every year. No idea what kid, but I give an for a scholarship and feel like I've done something, right? Done something. I may never know the impact of that on that child's life. Maybe they have a lousy time and it's really traumatic. I don't know. But, everything happens for me. It doesn't happen to me. And if they can take that attitude as well, that things happen for us, not to us, and they keep their optimism, they keep their nostalgia for the future. It's another line from Wavy. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to again blast out that everyone should watch if they want a little lift in their life. The Wavy Gravy Story, Saint Misbehavin'. Director Michelle Ezrick. And also Cracked Up. Watch that. It's about childhood trauma and this sequelae in the life of Daryl Hammond of Saturday Night Live fame, who did impersonations of Sean Connery in Jeopardy. So, I'll take an album cover for 100. It's an album cover. Oh, yeah. Priceless. He also did a great Bill Clinton. And it's all good. Daryl and Michelle got trauma-informed care introduced into legislation. Congress. I want to get behind efforts like that push when I see them. So the way that came about, I'll tell the story briefly, is I went to see a screening in 2016. A guy named Scott Shapiro had a Grateful Dead poster collection. 2016, he was looking for a place to exhibit it that would not try to sell it also. So he didn't want to sell it. He just wanted to share it. with everybody. It's a really extensive collection of posters, great artwork. Got a little collection myself, mostly rolled up right now. Oh gosh, I've got a lot to do. Anyway, so Scott's got that going on. Okay. He wants to find a place, so he pitches it to the Mainline Arts Center out on the main line, coming out of Philly, near the Ardmore Music Hall, near the Bryn Mawr Cinema. And on the board there is a young lady who listens to the pitch and then asks her colleagues, she's kind of looking at him like a little skeptical, like, what's he trying to get over here? And then it becomes apparent that she is the daughter-in-law of Wavy Gravy. He had one son with the former Bonnie Beecher, later Jahanara Romney, after marrying him and taking on that name, Jahanara. And that boy had been born at Tomahawk Truck Stop, and they hadn't picked out a boy name, but as she was delivering in the back of a bus, she looked up and said, Tomahawk Truck Stop. So he became Howdy Do Good Tomahawk Truck Stop Gravy and changed his name as soon as he was legally able to do so at the age of 13 to Jordan Romney. I've had the pleasure of meeting him once. 2019 it was. He came over to seek me out because Camp Winter Rainbow had gotten in touch saying, hey, we just got over $10,000 and the guy who put you there is at the show. And they pinged me on text, and I was grateful enough to say, hey, I'm just over here at the getting a stromboli at the pizza place across the street from the Ardmore. Let's back up to 2016, 3 years earlier. Yeah. So what happened there? 2016 is they got the bright idea. Well, Wavy turns, 80, and he has a party on the West Coast on May 15th. Let's just make this late May or early June thing his East Coast edition of his birthday party. Fair enough. And they made it so. Now, ASU Arizona State University, John McCain had a lot to do with that, being there. Anyhow, moving on. They have it. They have a show at the Mainline Arts Center. They do a screening at the Bryn Mawr Cinema. And I arrive on Saturday just for the screening. They had a party the night before on Friday night. I missed that. Good friend of mine was in town here, coming up from Vienna, Virginia. And he was heading to Ithaca not long after that in New York. He runs an archery school. We could talk more about Chuck later, but I first had Daily Grill with Chuck over at Georgetown at the Georgetown Inn and with my wife. And that was nice to have them connect. Chuck and I go back to fife and drum days, long back. So I put it off, didn't go to the party on Friday night, but I arrived and I had like VIP access or whatever. I decided to fund it, throw a few shekels behind it. And, I sit in the theater right behind me. Wavy is sitting with his wife, kid, maybe the director too, I forget. And they're in the row behind me. And we screen on the big screen, Saint Misbehaving. And I just love it, just eating it up. I'd seen it in 2009 when it came out. And here it is, 2016. So we are now 7 years later. And Wavy's mobility challenged a bit, but he gets up at the end of the thing saying, he has risen. And yes, indeed, he has risen. And he goes upstairs, take a little time to set up there. And they have a panel. Michelle and Shahnara, Wavy, and Jordan take questions from the audience. Some of them had gone stoned with Wavy at different protests and remember him from those days. And I have no background with them at all. I'm just this random figure that appears because I was attracted. The opening of the trailer has Larry Brilliant, who was involved in the eradication of smallpox, saying, and is Wavy's best friend, saying he comes at life from a different perspective and he draws others into that perspective. So I'm trying to draw you all into my perspective, which is partially guided by Nobody's Fool, and that'd be Wavy. He ran a nobody for president campaign in 72, 76, 80, I think, as well. I don't know when it stopped. Might have done it in 84 as well. I have no idea. But gets impressed, right? He gets that film, that documentary about his life. And those people who've seen it usually find it to be pretty wonderful. And it gives hope. So he's also involved in SAVA, saves the sight of the needlessly blind. That came out of the eradication of smallpox when Steve Jobs says, what do we tackle next? Brought together some people up in, I think, Michigan. And they sat around, and Ram Dass was one of them. And he said, we just have to be. And UN folks were there. They said, no, we got to take action. And Wavy just chanted, as I was talking about earlier, doobie, doobie, doo. Doobie, doobie, doo. So both and, not either or. Leibniz talked about that. The either orness, the it from bit 0, 1 that our computer systems are based on. That's the streaming bits out there through the universe. Lots of them. And it from bit. Charles Shannon, Wheeler, I'm forgetting. But it goes on. It goes on. There's Le Pen Quotidien. I think I might have stopped here at this very one when I had the opportunity to interview with Teach for America in 1998. I did not get in, but I hung out here when the bus dropped me off until it was time to go over to the building that used to exist across the street and interview. I don't think that's the building, but I think it was there at the time. So PNC Bank, like I said, they got some of my money. Brilliantly boring since 1865. Cool. What else do I want to say about all this? So Wavy, St. Misbehaving, the screening. After the panel, I went up and introduced myself, got my one copy signed, but bought 9 others, which I distributed here in DC to people I thought might appreciate it. I don't know if they did or not, but I did what I could to spread the gravy. And the result of all of that was I also talked to the director, Michelle. We're outside the Metropolitan Club. Fancy place. I ran into Tucker Carlson in there in the lobby one time when I was in for a lunchtime reading and presentation by Larry Pressler, ex-senator from South Dakota, first Vietnam veteran to run for president, a Rhodes Scholar. Larry's out in South Dakota. I mean, argument of decline. I've seen him on Zoom within the last few weeks. He was in a hospital getting checked out. Some poor guy. He lost his wife not long back, and she was doing everything for him now. His stepdaughter's taking care of him out there. We're trying to get him back here in DC, get him into Inspire, which is a old folks place that's right across from where I live. So not very far at all, near the Cosmos Club. He was a member of the Cosmos Club as well as the Metropolitan Club. Saw him walking to the Metropolitan Club the last time I saw him, really intact, and he was about to head over to India to wash the feet of lepers. Okay, so that was Larry. And my close encounter with Tucker Carlson as well. So Metropolis Club is where you can find all those folks from time to time. Not far from the executive office building. This is the new one, the old one down there, past the Linwood Gallery. I think maybe if we can do it, I'm going to walk down by the White House. So I talked to the director. I didn't get really past that story. I asked her what she was doing next. And Michelle said, hey, I'm doing this film called about Daryl Hammond. I don't have a title for it yet. I said, well, let me see what I can do to help. So I kept in touch, sent her paltry amount through a means that would allow me to be tax deductible. It was through the Utah Film Center, I think, or something like that. And she put me in the credits. That was so nice. So I sent her more. And that's what I do, get behind the push. Every cent we spend is a vote for the kind of world we're co-creating. And 2019, like I said, I'm back at the Ardmore Music Hall for unlimited devotion. Get to talk to Wavy because Jordan comes over and fetches me because I've helped put them over the $10,000 of a $20,000 fundraiser that had a matching with it. And I was like, okay, man, okay, we're doing this, right? We're helping. And, it was just really uplifting to go and meet with Wavy for a minute, get a photograph shot by his manager, Mark Golis. Hi, Mark, if you're out there. And I then just faded back into the crowd, which was nice. I come home next morning after the thing was over. It was a Monday morning. I see a note from Michelle that she is, maybe I sent her one, and she responded saying she was in DC and she was going to be screening Cracked Up, which I had not yet seen, at this hotel down here, one of these big conference hotels, because she was going to be part of the Child Advocacy Centers of America national conference. Child Advocacy Centers, a Child Advocacy Association of America. And yeah, it was great, but it's chilling because what we were seeing was all the apparatus they use to get forensic evidence of child sexual abuse and such. And wow. Now, Daryl's own story, you could see in Cracked Up, the Daryl Hammond story, and got beautiful cinematography, excellent choices made throughout, and quite evocative. And Michelle is available to talk about it. She's also working on one about Terry Real, who's a couples counselor, relationship counselor. He wrote a book called Us. I have a copy of that too somewhere. And I don't know when it's going to be out, but Ripple Effect Films, Michelle Esrig, look her up, get behind her and push. Get her going because there's a lot of good we can do in the world. She did something in the pandemic, a Zoom call, multiple people on it, from Denise Kaufman, who is part of the Ace of Cups and a Mary Prankster. Her prankster name was Mary Microgram, I think. And then there was who else? Who else was involved in this? Bob Weir and his wife Natasha. They were in there talking about headcount, getting people registered to vote, and we were also graced with Wavy and Jaw's presence there. Larry Brilliant, the doctor, his memoir called "Sometimes Brilliant" is worth the price of admission. And yeah, Rochambeau, instrumental in the Battle of Yorktown. My great, 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 great grandfather fought there. And this is the result of events that happened there. This is Lafayette Square. Lafayette's on the other corner. He was also there helping the Virginia militia. And a young man, Andrew Jackson, is in the center of Lafayette Square. A equine statue of Andrew Jackson. Say what you will. All of these people and the decisions they made and the context in which they found themselves have led to the present moment in which we are walking and talking. And we keep on walking. There's the White House, Secret Service outside, some sort of protest tent shelter set up over here. And yeah, it goes on, right? Never know who you might see. Fountain going. Mencken predicted this, by the way, H.L. Mencken. got a book autographed by him, A Christmas Story, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's see what I can do. So the doors to the main house are open. Lovely fountain. And up away. Went back up 16th Street. Sleepy Cave. Secret Service, a part of the Department of Homeland Security. Tough job. Stand around a lot. But put yourself on the line if necessary. That's the thing, right? Service. This is a service that I'm doing, I think. And I'll keep on walking. Ilya Hush has joined, Tara Deacon. This is a wild story. That's really fantastic of you. Tara Deacon, thank you so much. I love it. We got Deborah Keeley has said a few things. All is good science. Oh, I lost the comment. I get it back. This is to be unkind. Manipulation of others' hearts, the souls for financial reasons. Deception. I'm not sure what that means, Deborah Healy, but I'd love to get a little more explanation of what you're on about there. Not sure if I'm being accused, but I am trying to move the needle. I'm using the energy that is money to do that to the extent I'm able. I don't have a lot. Widow's mite kind of stuff, but it is what it is. Here's the monument to Lafayette. There's the U.S. Treasury over there if you want to talk about money. And over there, another bank or something, I think. It used to be Riggs. Then they've changed it. They've been done a lot of renovation. The building's over on this side. And it looks like they've wrapped it up for the most part. I don't know where I'm going yet. Just keep walking. So I'm sure that I can dance. It's a saint of circumstance. I think we're all doing the best we can with what we have, but we'd do better if we knew better. So let's get each other, some information. Let's share what we have. Time is currency. I call it the American revelation. Time is money. It's currency. It's energy. It's a fantasy we all agree upon, and it moves things. Though it does things. I think Gallatin understood that. We're going to be passing by a statue of him. We're also noting the kind of things that happen in our society that we allow. We all have a part in it. I just walk by, walk on by. Don't interfere. Don't get involved. But yet, we do have means of getting involved. We can take our tax-deductible donations and make them instead of paying it all into the federal government and trusting them to do it. I think we have to, at this point. Government scaling back and putting the responsibility on us to be the change we want to see in the world and not expecting a nanny state to do it for us. I know that probably is inflammatory, but when you think about it, we are all personally responsible for the world we are co-creating, and every cent spent is a vote for what we have got here. I definitely am part of the problem. G.K. Chesterton, when asked by a editorial board of some newspaper or magazine or something, "Dear sir, what is wrong with the world today?" He wrote back, "Dear sir, I am." We're all responsible, we're all woven into each other's lives. We may not know it, may not think about it, but it's true. There are no innocent bystanders here. We're all participants. After a certain age, we're thrown into this world, as Heidegger would have it, and we're helpless. We're traumatized from the get-go. And if we don't know that, we tend to work it out in all kinds of ways that don't work for us. Think about reality tunnels. Think about neurolinguistics. Think about the circuits. First one, mammalian circuit, is to seek that breast, suckle, get nourishment, find safety for survival. If a child doesn't find that safety, if mother is cold, distant, absent, then the child learns something else. Some people say this is character building. It is. The characters it builds can be really distorted and unhealthy, and as a result, have some maladjustments in the way that they go about things. And it can be tricky to fix that, particularly if you're 62, as I am, or if you're 22, as I was when I was first encountering the fellowship. And I'm walking away from at this point. I'm going to practice principles in all my affairs to the best of my ability, and I'll look to everyone in my world because all my affairs means all my affairs. That would include when I'm filming the passing show. I'm taking in from my distance what's happening. What's happening here? I keep on moving. This is called the extra mile. And there are little monuments along the way to different people who have made a difference in the world, gone the extra mile. First one is Ethel Percy Andrus, who's a doctor, a retired educator, founded AARP in 1958 to promote her philosophy of productive aging. She influenced the marketplace to develop innovative solutions for social needs. Her organization promotes independence, dignity, and purpose for those age 50 and older, helps people live their best lives. What we do for all. And then we have here George Edmund Haynes and Ruth Standish Baldwin, monument to them for recognizing the need for national infrastructure support, the Black urban population, through employment, education, and advocacy. Ruth Standish Baldwin and Dr. George E. Haynes founded the National Urban League in 1910. The Urban League movement is compelling evidence of the power of finding common ground for common good, a stepping stone toward economic self-reliance and civil rights. We should expect each individual to be treated on the basis of his worth and conduct rather than on his color. Dr. George E. Haynes said that. So those two are two of many points of light along the way. And we're coming up on the Hamilton, sometimes called the Gramilton, for Nathan Graham, drummer. Happens to be a friend of mine on Facebook anyway. I haven't met him personally, but I have seen his band perform. Well, again, in August, during the days between Midnight North will be playing at the Hamilton Live. Looking forward to that. And we're walking, so I'm sure that I can dance. And we're not too far from the National Press Club building where I dropped Lynn just a little while ago before going up and parking the car and starting to film the passing show again. Don't think the sandwich board is out for the events, but the menus are out. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Days between, you can just see a little bit of it. Can't really see what's happening. Maybe there'll be another banner somewhere else I can see. They'll have it out soon. So I'm probably going to contact Lynn, see if she's available for a little coffee at Starbucks. I go down to the Starbucks myself, hang for a bit, see if she's around. She's able to make it down there. Mobility is kind of a challenge, and she's got some pretty heavy shit going on today. So I don't know. I don't know if she's going to feel like it or not. The National Press Building, that's where it all happens. Actually, I kind of like the corner bakery better. Actually, a little closer for her, too. Should do it. No. 34, 33. I don't see the signs out yet. For the days between August 1st, August 9th, between Jerry's birthday and Jerry's date of death at the age of 53. Julia Ward Howe is memorialized here, 1819 to 1910. A firebox. Usually have a little text on the other side. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Julia Ward Howe, 2019, Charles Bergen Studios, funded by the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities Public Art Building Communities Grant and Downtown Business Improvement District. She was a poet, author, composer, abolitionist, suffrage, and more. Battle Hymn of the Republic. Battle Hymn of the Republic. Let's get in the bakery and see what they have. No, I. Oh, is that Craig? Guy walking in the hat there reminds me of a friend of mine named Craig. I don't know if it is him or not, but yeah, a little diversion there. Same here. I may not show it, but I may. I see it. So I'm doing a little cameo of my reflection there. So let me wrap this up, get in touch with Lynn, see if she wants to come down. And if she doesn't, that's fine. It's only 8:21 for God's sakes. Hardly anybody's in yet. She might need a break. And good to have 17 of you join.